Hi everyone, welcome back to D.I.Y Forge. I am Tim, and in this video I'm going to talk about punching holes. This technique involves heating the material to forging temperature and using a punch and a hammer to create a round, square or other shaped holes. This technique was more relevant before the advancement of metal drilling tools, but still in use by blacksmiths who want to use more traditional methods. So here are some punching tools that I have. There are various different sizes and shapes. There's some square ones, round ones, small size. This goes up to 1/4 inch, 3/8 and 1/2 inch. I like to have my tools in this short configuration so I can hold them with this pair of tongs. This way my hand is out of the heat and I have more control over it. You can have longer and hold it by hand, or some punching tools have, they're much larger and have a hole, and then you can attach a wooden handle or a wraparound handle there. So before I explain this method to you, I like to talk about the punch itself a little bit. For hole punches, you want to have a punch that the punching shaft is more parallel and a very little taper with it, versus a drift punch where you have a very small diameter at the end and it gradually opens up. The purpose of the drift punch is to open up a slot or a hole and make it bigger. The purpose of a a hole punch, is to compress the material and create the hole itself. If you have a totally parallel shaft, that might be a hindrance because it might get a little bit heated up or upset and get stuck in the hole. So you want to have a little bit of a taper there. The way the punching goes is you heat up your material to forging temperature and you take your punching tool, and at the predetermined location you start to drive your punch into the material and compress the material behind the punch all the way down. And then you flip it over and you will see a heat mark, and then you place your punch there and go all the way down again. This will first compress the material, and then and you flip it over and punch it down. You're going to shear it and remove that material. So we have our material up to forging temperature. We place the punch and just strike down and strike until we kind of feel a very solid feel to it, and then we flip it over. You see that little mark there. You place the punch there again and just punch and go all the way out. And here the hole. We go and straighten it out a little bit and check if everything was the right size. Now keep in mind that when it cools down it might shrink a little bit, and right now is a perfect size for this 3/8 round stock, but it might be a little bit tight. In that case I use just a drift punch and make the hole a little bit larger at what we need. But you have to like experiment with it and see if that's the case or not. That's pretty good. So after we punch the hole, we end up with a little disc like this that came out of the hole. This shows how much we compressed the material. This was originally 3/8 of an inch thick, and now it's about 1/16 of an inch thick. What happens is you basically create a die set, a bottom die, out of the material, and then when we compress it down, you reduce the thickness, and when you flip it over and punch it, it just shears that 1/16 or very thin material. I'm gonna splice in a diagram so you can see what happens inside the material. So as you can see, this punched hole cooled down now, and the material that went through when it was hot is not going through now. So it cooled down and became a little bit tight. So we can use a drift punch and just slightly open it up and check. Now we're good to go. You can do this while it's hot and make it a little bit larger or you can just give it a little punch after the a little bit of a widening after the fact that it's cooled down. So here I'm demonstrating how to do a square hole, and it's just the same as the round hole. You take your punch, go all the way to the bottom, then flip it and all the way to the other side, and then you punch out the little plate. And this one probably needs a little opening, so I might be able to do with this punch, or I get the drift punch. But I think I'm able to do it with this one. So here we go, square hole. I like to talk about the pros and cons of this technique. I'm going to talk about the cons first, obviously, because you are using heat and using a crude method of doing a hole. You will be less precise in diameter and the location of your hole as well. And there's always a little deformation to the shape of the material, which can be a design component or can be a nuisance, and you have to get rid of it by forging it back and using the drift punch or the punch to make that hole square around again. The advantages of it, that you can do all kinds of shapes of holes. It's very difficult to drill a square hole or a triangular hole or any oval or anything, but with this punching technique you can do it easily, and it's a nice decorative element as well. The other advantage is this punching technique versus drilling is that you can do this while you're forging, so it's fast. You don't have to wait until the material cools down. If you know where your hole's gotta be and you are forging something, you can just do it. You don't need the drill press, you don't need the drill bits. You can just have a punch and punch out a bunch of holes. Alright guys, this is it for today's video. I hope you find it interesting and learned something new today. If you'd like to support my channel, please subscribe, like, comment and share. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.